Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Thursday. It's April 9th. This will be our chart lesson for today. And um, it looked like it was going to be a range day early on, um, but this two-tiered channel continued to stay in play. I had planned to play this similar to a range day, but when we got the break and started heading down there, that was really your only clue that you better not enter right here. You better wait on the second entry off the lows, and it just kept going down. And so then you just have to kind of forget this little range for the moment and play what you got. Actually, there was an entry here that should probably be in green, and I'll mark that one. It's like a little breakout pullback, and it's a little two-legged move back too. So I kind of liked it to the long side because once it held back in the range again, you figure we're headed to the upper side. And but yet this two-tiered channel had taken over, so you pretty much had to go with it. But let's talk about the trades. I'm going to wrap it up pretty quickly today. I'm going to take vacation. I'm actually um, leaving town for a few days, taking a 3-day weekend. So I'm going to wrap this one up. No chart lesson tomorrow, no midday chart tomorrow or anything. And I'll be back Monday. We'll be back to regular schedule Monday. So, but anyway, let's talk about the trades and we'll work from there. And what I saw early on was a two-tiered channel working up. We had the break right here. I really got this channel off of those lows, um, and it fit off. It actually fit up here off the highs. You can see the midline kind of came into play. It didn't last very long. It's basically two measured legs up, and you measure that first leg, and then once the second leg started up, you're looking for basically a measured move. And we missed it by a couple of ticks, it looks like. Um, but that's two legs up, and then we had the little sell-off coming down. And but notice this correction right here. This is just a first entry. You really could have entered here if you wanted, but I think it was a little risky. I think you're better off to wait on a second entry. Then you get the second entry and it doesn't break above that bar and it doesn't close. It's kind of hard to see there. Let me make this a little bigger. It's not a good setup, so I decided that I think it's better you wait, and it does pull back, and then it gives you a failed second entry short, and it goes out it breaks lower and then turns and goes right out the top. Just go long right there, and that turns out it just keeps on going. And if you catch that move, you look for a possible measured move all the way up, and you can see the little short-term trend line. It just keeps rolling, and then it turns and heads lower. Um, you did get a break of this channel here. You really never got your confirmation other than a couple of touches and a third confirmation on that bar, but it fits nicely there. And a lot of times you find it off those first few bars like that, especially when it fits on the top. That's a good clue. And then it starts working lower. You don't want to go long here necessarily. If you did, when this bar closed like this and when this one started up, you better exit in case you missed this break and the big move and the two measured legs up. But it's pretty clear that we're probably going to, have some kind of correction here. Notice how the EMA, it's not really rejecting prices like it should. Um, and it does kind of hold there somewhat. And there is the double top right in there from the overnight. And it's trying to act as support. So it's possible this might have tricked you into going long. But if you didn't enter on this bar, um, you definitely didn't want to enter this one. And if you did enter on this bar, when it closed like this, when this bar, went up and starts working back again too, I probably would exit this. Although I don't think you really should have entered here to begin with because it's not a very good setup. This does look a little bullish here, but it can't get back above that bar, and so really you've got a couple of bars already stacked up, and then a fourth bar, and then kind of a fifth bar. So when it turned down, you definitely had to exit there. When it turned down, you probably wanted to reverse, and if you didn't get fooled here, you want to enter, and that turns out to be Pretty nice trade. And you're looking for another measured leg down, just like you looked for a measured move up. There's your first leg, and then there's your next leg. And you see we went a little further down, so we've got a little more momentum to the downside than we do the upside. And that's one of those clues. You didn't make a measured move here to the upside, and you went more than a measured move to the downside. So then it bounces, it comes back up, and you may not have found this line right here unless you use those first two. I originally had it a little lower. It still works right there either way. I don't think it makes much difference. You probably can adjust this, and it probably fits the same either way. But I originally had it here, and then I just kind of moved it up a little bit. It seemed to fit better by moving it up later. But anyway, you still get the same thing, and you get your first couple of touches there, and then you get your confirmation here. Look at that bearish reversal bar. I like that one. Even though it's a first entry, it broke higher and turned and went right out the low side of this inside bar here and ends you really could have gone short here, but that's really your signal bar, so it's okay to go short right there too. And you can see it was a quick, easy move. It pulls back, no runners, and you get another second entry. Again, right off that trend line, just go short right there. Another quick, easy move. Then you get another second entry. This is really supposed to be this bar. What I would have done here, this is not a very pretty bar. It broke lower here, but it backed up. So I would have waited for it to break lower here and then used the limit order and tried to get a little better entry. And you could have gotten a pretty good entry on that bar, and it just keeps going lower. I don't like this entry here. There's too much support there, and there's too big a chance it breaks lower and pulls back. So I really don't like that entry right there. I think it's too risky. Would have worked, but it's easy to say that after the fact. And then I also, now that we've had the break of this channel and a new low, there's not really a good setup here either. There's a first entry here, not a very good one. Then there's, a convoluted second entry here. Again, it never breaks higher and gives you that little trap you like to see or whatever. So I think you're better off to leave all that alone. And then, of course, it bounces and takes off. And look how it just goes right through that EMA, goes up, it pulls back. And this is a little two-legged pullback. This is not the greatest setup bar, but when it broke high above this one, I would have used a limit order in here and tried to catch this one because it's bouncing off of this support here. And that first move, you're going to probably get another leg, and you probably ought to look for a possible measured move. There's your first leg, and that was what you would be looking for at a target. And you can see we got close to that before it corrected, and it just took off again. So, but that's what that gives you a little incentive to stay in here. And it turns out to be a two-tiered channel. There's a second entry long here, but it's right into this resistance, and I just don't like going short there. It was really almost tempting to tell you this is a failed breakout, but you got this channel working up and no break of it, and so I just think it was a little risky going short right there. You're better off to wait and see if you can get a long down here. There's a nice setup bar there. You could have gone long there. I'd circled this in green because I wanted to talk about it. There's a couple of entries here that are possibilities. You could have gone long right there above that bar. It would have worked. You would have had to ride all this out. But notice how we came up short up here. So you figure we're going to overshoot, there's a good chance you overshoot by that much. And so that's what I was expecting it to do here. It came, but it came you had to wait for that little failed second entry short, and then it broke higher, and that was a great trade. It just takes off, and you really get almost a breakout pullback long right there too. But if you went long right here, if you didn't use this for your stop, you were probably in trouble. And so if you entered here, this is the interesting part. Notice how these bars are two inside bars. If this one would have broke higher here and ended, I would have liked it a little better. But generally, if you enter something like this, the lowest swing needs to be where you're considered your signal bar and where your stop goes. Because too many times you'll see what happened right here, and then it goes where you want it to go. But if you noticed it's coming up short here, you might have been expecting it to overshoot at least an equal amount. And a lot of times when it's doing like this, especially with this resistance here, what I will do is wait for it to fail twice. And that's why I really like this entry here. It failed twice. And then you get a chance to enter because now you got a low first entry, pullback second entry. So you got a failed second entry short there. And I like that a lot better because now you got people trapped. That big bar probably traps people. And look at it go. So, but you could have really entered all three of those places. But if you did, you had to really consider putting your stop below this signal bar right here. And you're probably better off just to skip those entries. Maybe this second one, if it had broken higher and closed maybe a tick higher or whatever, because it's hard to pass up a second entry counting off the lows off the trend line. But really, this is what confirmed the trend line. This one, you didn't really have a confirmation of it yet. This just kind of set it. If you didn't kind of notice it off those three bars, and so this kind of confirmed it. And then they trapped everybody and then took it up. So it was a little tricky. So you could have gotten tricked there, and if you did, there's not much you can do other than you probably should have had your stop below this bar here because that's the low of the swing. Um, and that really got you. This setup didn't come till after 2 o'clock. Neither did this one. This was actually a failed second entry short if you count from here. And then you can always count this as a new low, and so there was another failed second entry short here. But it's way after 2 o'clock, so I didn't mark any of them, and I think you're better off to stay away from them. And so that's what I saw today. And in the end, it looks a lot like a range day except for this late afternoon breakaway. But if you take into account the low of the day came at 10:21, it was all uphill from there. So um, it's hard to categorize that, from 10:20 on as a range day. But you still found your resistance in here. And if you did happen to trade these, um, if you waited on the second entry, you wouldn't have gotten caught in well, you might have here, but there's no signal. But there's just never really a good setup here. Um, and so, there's no real reason to get caught short here. If anything, you might have gotten caught. I could see you getting caught to the long side early here. A whole lot easier, and I could see if you got caught to the short side here, you just were trying to guess on the top, basically, because there's no setups, at least not on my chart. Um, and especially after a big bullish move like that, and then the pullback, and then we don't quite have a measured move again, and we're not quite back to the highs of what the overnight high here. So there's a good chance we could go up there and test it. So you just had to be real wise about your entries right there. And sometimes no trade is your best trade, and I tell people that just be patient because if you rush any of these except for this one, and on your chart this could have been um, it could have been a bearish bar. It's close on mine, so you could almost go short right there, but that one would have worked. But I still think you're better off to take a second entry, and you don't get it till here, and you've moved way too low. Now you're right at the EMA. It's too risky entering now. If you are going to enter this trade, you got to do it way away from the EMA, like here, because you got room for the pullback. And that is always helpful on entries like that. If you're looking for a reason to worry about it, if you've already pulled back and you're right at the EMA, then be very careful about getting in with the pullback. And just like from here, you're coming up from the lows. Be careful about getting long into that. Because look what happens. You turn and you go the other way. So you got to be real careful. And that's something a lot of people miss. And so make sure you understand that. If you don't, back up and listen to this a couple more times till it makes sense. If you're pulling back, the closer you get to the EMA, unless you shoot right through and come back and test it from the other side, and it holds, you're really risking it entering in the direction of the correction right at the EMA. So in other words, entering up here is safer because you got room to get out. It's got room to come back to that EMA because it acts as support and resistance. And so it's real risky going short here into the EMA because you don't have any room. Same thing here. So Hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, listen to that a few times and watch it and see till it does make sense. So, but I'm going to wrap it up. Not much else to talk about today. I'm going to start my vacation, be gone. Just remember again, no midday charts tomorrow, and no YouTube chart lesson either. So, but I'll be back Monday. We'll be back on regular schedule Monday. So, hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com.